All right, so I'm making a coil pot. And I want to start with a base. So just like with the pinch pots, I'm going to start with a ball. Because the pot that I'm going to make is round, so if I start with a ball, I can get a decent round base. All right, so I have a ball. Now I'm going to start to flatten that ball out, kind of like a hamburger patty, right? Just flip it over. I want to get this to a nice even consistency, right? Like the thickness of this is right now is way too thick, right? I want to get it down to 1/4 of an inch, but I want the whole thing to stay even. I don't want it to have like a big hump in the middle and be paper thin on the outside. Even if I stretch it out a little more, and the sides get too thin, some of that's going to be cut away. So all right, so I'm going to use the table. So if you have a rolling pin like that, you could work with that too. But you don't really need it, because I mean this is nice and even and flat, right? Just by using the table in my hands, right? So that about the thickness I want, right? 1/4 of an inch. That's the magic number. Now, I need to know how big my base is actually going to be. So that's where my template comes into play. So if I'm using this one, I'll take the inside cut out of the template. Right, and I can find something that's about this big around, maybe a little bigger, and I can trace that. All right, so I have this can. It is a little bigger than where I want to be, right? But I can trim this away. But I just want to go ahead and get an idea. So I just put that there, get something to draw with. And just trace that. All right, so now I have my circle. I'm gonna get some more tools. All right, so now I can cut away this excess. I don't really need it. There's going to be more cutting involved, like as I attempt to finish the pot. And I'm not pushing down on the table really hard because I don't want to scratch it all up. I can just feel the table underneath the knife. So this clay is still pretty soft, right? I can save this for something else. Put it back in my bag. All right, so now I know that this is going to be pretty close to where I start. So, and again, I will probably trim some of that away a little more as I add coils. If you have something that matches up, then that's good, but I didn't. All right, so now I'm ready for my first coil. So I know based on this, like my coil's gonna start to move in pretty early. So I'll take my coil I rolled earlier. Fork. So if I'm attaching, I always attach the first coil to the base by scoring and slipping, and then by using the coil that this clay is all the same consistency, so it'll stick together pretty well. I don't need to score and slip between every one. Now if you're making it like one ring at a time, like I would make one ring attach, then I would start scoring and slipping more often. But again, the clay is still pretty consistent, so I'm just going to go around the outside here on top. Doesn't have to be super neat, it just needs to be in the right place. Now I'm going to score this. And then use water. I don't need a lot of water, just enough to make it kind of sticky. All right, so now I'm going to place this where I want it. So right now I'm going to go, if I want this pot to go straight up, I would just stack this right on top of the next one, right? Or that's actually it, you know, I can tighten it up a little bit. I haven't sealed anything down yet, right? You can just tighten it up and make it go straight. If I want it to go in, then I need to start, you know, once I get to the overlap, right, I can bring it in just enough to start moving in. So by using a whole coil like that, I can direct the form pretty well, but I get more height out of it instead of one ring at a time. Like to me, this is better. But what I want to do, since this is a demonstration, I want to go ahead and start to get this first coil in place. So I'm going to take my thumb on the inside and I'm pushing some of that clay down onto the base, and a little bit of a pinch on the outside. Now come on top. Now that that's in place. So right here where there's a little hump, I can sort of cut that off. I could be a little neater with it, but that leaves it at a level spot. So if I want to stop right there's a good spot for me to show you some things. Right, so now this is all here, right? And I've got to clean it up and seal it down. Like now I can reach the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and address the bottom. I want to make sure that seam on the inside of this pot looks nice, right? So you really don't want to see it. It just needs to blend in. And I'm going to push more clay down in there too, because again, I'm not using coils as a decorative thing, I'm using it as a construction. So my thumb is going to push the clay from the top coil down to the bottom. So I'm going to do the inside first, and you'll be able to see it a little better on the outside. Where I'm just going around, I'm just taking a little bit of clay from the top, moving it down to the bottom. Always a good idea to you know, keep checking your form to make sure you're going in the right direction, and keeping it round if your pot is meant to be round. Now there are things you can clean up, you know, later, but you want to do as much as you can now. All right, so now the inside, I've sealed that coil down so you don't see the coil, right? Now I'm going to take my finger and redo that bottom seam. Take some of that clay that I pushed around, clean it up. Really pay attention to the little details. All right, so now I'm going to do the outside. And I'm going to go ahead and get my template. And just kind of hold it up. So I already know that I'm kind of in a weird spot. So I'm going to pinch it and move it in based on my template. So I'm just changing the direction of which way the coils are going, because I just stacked it right on top. I didn't tighten it up. So now I can take my thumb and move the clay down. Right? You can do it like this. I always like to have something on the inside to brace what I'm doing on the outside. So if I'm working this way with my thumb on the outside and pushing down, my finger's backing up that, and that helps keep the form in a good spot. All right, so I've gone all the way around. Now that doesn't look great, but now the thickness of my coil, the wall of my pot, is at 1/4 inch. That's why I left the coils a little bit bigger than 1/4 inch, because I knew I would push some of that clay around. Now, I've got this excess down here that I want to get rid of, so I'm going to take my knife and just cut. Just kind of clean that up. So at this point, I'd probably not I wouldn't clean this up normally, but I'm just gonna show you now to just kind of speed this along. But now I can use the gift card, plastic card, whatever you got, and I can smooth out the wall. And I'm also working it in, because that's what my form is telling me to do. And I can certainly do a lot more of this as the pot gets bigger, but I'm trying to address as much of it as I can early on. So there's less to do later when it starts to get drier. But now that's smoother, right? And there's still more that I can cut away and everything, but I'm not going to do that yet. So I've worked in, and now this pot goes in a little more and then starts coming out. So if I hold that, that's about as far as I need to go. And now I can start coming out with the next coil. So because I know how wet this clay is, like I can go ahead and start just sticking it on there without scoring or slipping. Now, if you stop for a day and cover everything up and come back the next day to attach another coil, you want to go ahead and score and slip again. And again, I'm not doing anything other than just laying it in place, and then I can start to move it around. Sometimes they break, it's all right. And this one, need a little more. So now it's starting to go out because of the way I'm laying the coil down. And that's when I would come in and start to seal this down, and make sure that you seal it down to the other part. You know, probably be better to do it. I'm gonna cut that off and make it a little easier to work with. I mean, you can certainly go a long way, but it's a lot easier to work like 2 or 3 bands at a time. And also, you know, this part is still soft, and if I start attaching this, right, I've really got to pay attention to, am I changing it too much, right? Is it too soft to attach something to? So those are things you got to remember, right? So I'm not going to do much more other than just show you a few more things. So if you want to do some of those pots like with the decoration on the outside, you would just seal down the inside. Now if you want to, anything you add to them, I can take one of these coils, make it smaller, get it about the size of what, you know, my end result's going to be, and then I can kind of roll it around. Now this one's breaking, but it'll all work out. So I make like a little pinwheel, right? I'm going to go ahead and seal down one side of it to make sure it stays together. And then I could attach it, you know, here. And then as I work around, like more clay would kind of fill in the spaces, right? You can add balls of clay, right? As long as you seal them down, right? To give that textured look on the outside. So that's, I mean, I don't know how much more I really need to show you on this because it's just repetitive at this point, like cleaning things up and smoothing it out, making sure you're doing all this stuff. Remember that one side always has to be sealed. So if I want the coils to show, I better make nice coils, first of all. And second of all, the inside has to be sealed down. Okay? So that's pretty much it for coils. And again, you can use different types of coils. Like in the other video that I showed you yesterday of me making 3 different kinds of coils, like leaving a fatter coil so you can come in and pinch it in the direction you want. That works great too. Or making flat coils and using them and attaching them. Those work also. So all that will be in the assignment. This will be in the assignment. The template will be in the assignment. I'm going to stop this.